Next podcast with Chris and Todd.
Hey, we're going to slide into a conversation today with us in studio.
This is a special treat.
I know, the one, the only Carina Shepherd.
Hello, I'm here.
I'm here.
I've arrived.
You have arrived. I know all the pomp and circumstance of you arriving. The paparazzi was pretty thick.
Wild.
Yes. And man, I never get tired of hearing the hear ye now enters Carina Shepherd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true.
And
Yep.
then Jack in the background going, why are we even doing this? The look at his
Are you
face.
kidding? Jack's the one saying hear ye.
Yeah,
hear ye.
I was going to say Jackson what's
I can't even see Jack saying hear ye ever.
I could.
Could you? Yeah. He'd be like, can we first talk about the Wild game last night? Which I don't even know if they beat the Stars, but
I don't know.
They did, and it was very exciting
Did
in
the
our
Wild
house.
win?
Yes, they did.
well, the good. Then Jack can be in a good mood
There
today.
you
Yeah,
go. The one thing
he
you got to
is.
learn about Carina, she's a hockey fan.
Well, she's a hockey fan, I think, because Jack's a hockey fan, right?
Well, that's true.
Hockey is the only sport that I
Really love.
will watch
Really?
Yeah.
willingly.
Okay.
See?
That's
hockey
cool.
fan.
No, I'm a Dallas North Stars fan, a Minneapolis.
Oh, you went down
Stars
to
fan.
North Stars.
Yeah, it is like back in the day. Like
Yeah.
they used to be like the best fighting team in the NHL, and that is what we were known for. But then the Minnesota Wild. It's funny. I have been to the only professional hockey is the same place you went to Denver, and I got to watch the Avalanche play the Calgary Flames.
There you go.
And it went into a shootout.
Boom.
And that was awesome. My first hockey game, and it went into a shootout. I was like, this is
Those are fun.
legit. It is fun. But anyway, hey,
People were probably not expecting hockey talk today, but we got in it.
Listen, we try to cover a vast array of things so that we can pull in
Every audience.
those
Here
on
we
the
go.
outskirts. Like
You brought me
know,
in to talk about
Yeah,
hockey. That's
that's-
really fun.
No, we didn't.
No, we actually have a special purpose and a reason for you. Tell us about your flambe. No, I'm just kidding. You're like, flambe is flambe any? No,
No big words. No big words.
no. We actually wanted to take some time just today. Todd and I love having individuals in.
Yeah.
And just talking about specific things that they have a passion and a heart for. Obviously, you are in the position as our small groups champion coordinator, the individual that takes the reins of small groups and steers us in the direction of positivity. And
That's correct.
I love that word, positivity. But no,
A little bit deeper
Carina,
than that.
yeah. Carina, for those of you who don't know, we'll give you just a second, just kind of introduce yourself and maybe a couple of the things that you do at the church here at Fountain Springs.
Okay. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Well, I'm the great Carina.
The great.
You introduced me that way,
Yes, I
Chris.
did.
I'm Carina. I am the groups coordinator,
Yeah.
which is the main focus of today, but I also am the coffee shop coordinator. So I run the coffee shop that happens at our locations. And then I do a lot of admin duties, the behind the scenes of weddings, funerals, events,
Yeah.
things like that. I like the behind the scenes.
Giddy up. No, you are a key cog in the midst of a lot of different things that take place in our multi-state team specifically. And yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't like doing that you help make sure get done, which is beautiful.
This is awesome. Well, since we're talking about groups today, I know you have a passion for it, but I think for the audience to hear a little bit of like what got you to that spot of loving groups and wanting to lead groups.
Yeah. So I started, I started attending Fountain Springs 12 years ago, I think. And there was a couple of groups that were pretty like instrumental when we first started, specifically a financial group that me and my husband did together. That one was really great and did a couple of like classes. And then I really just felt like I wasn't feeling the community of a big church, because when I got here, 12 years ago, we weren't as big as we are now, but we were right at the start of the expansion. So it was a lot of like, this is a great church. This is a great place to be. And I love coming on Sundays, but there's so many people, I don't know how to like connect with them or have conversations. So that's kind of what sparked me wanting to be in groups. And then I started with doing some like parenting groups because I had small kids at the time. And so that was really great to just be surrounded by like other moms who had kids around the same age, or even kids who were older that could speak into the experiences I was going through. And then it just kind of was a gradual progression of you're in a group and then you are in another group, and then you're in another group, and then you're like, oh, maybe it's not as scary to lead a group. The very first group I led was a church-wide study, and they provided everything for me. Like, they gave me all of the videos to watch. They gave me all of the questions to ask. So they're like, you're basically like reading out of a guidebook.
Yeah.
And
So
that made
leading
it
it.
so easy for me, and like
Which we still try to do,
yes,
right? We
still
still
have
try
that.
to make it easy as possible
Yeah.
to lead a group and step into that. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you said it that way.
Mhm.
Like, I think sometimes there's this fog or this mystery around leading groups. Like, I'm going to have to figure everything out and read my
Mhm.
Bible more and more. And what if I don't know the answer? Hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
we want you to win. We want you to, sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I think what you said there was just kind of an important conversation that maybe we can pick up on later a little bit, but really is that reality of like, we want you to win. We want you to love, not having to stress about what's going on with this process. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like as I began to lead, like the very first group I led, I was terrified.
Mhm.
It was great. Didn't really like make lifelong friends in that group because that doesn't always happen. But I did make some really good connections that I still am connected with today. Like, I love those ladies, and I still see them and still talk to them regularly. And then eventually I did go start a group just as a lot of the groups that I chose to lead would be, I've had this book sitting on my shelf for 6 months and I want to read it. Maybe other women will want to read it with me.
Yeah.
That's how I
Good accountability there
yeah.
too. You're like, well,
Yeah,
I gotta
and then
I got to read it.
force myself to read this book. Although it was like great content and I wanted to read it, I just wouldn't make time for it. So just making time to do it with other ladies, and then that got me into probably the strongest connection group I've made. So
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
As you've kind of navigated groups, and I think you hit on it as a church, I think it's important to say is like our hope with groups is, yes, you're able to make church a little bit smaller
Mhm.
and able to build relationships with people, because I do think that's where church starts to feel like home a little bit.
Mhm.
Yes, it pushes us to have a deeper relationship with God, but I think ultimately God's going, I want you to have relationships with other people.
Mhm.
And so groups is a piece to that. And so some of that could be whether it's doing a book together, doing a financial thing together, and it may not be like best friends afterwards, but hey, I at least know them. I at least did something together. I see them at church, those kind of things. I am curious because I do have, we've been doing groups long enough. We've heard here's why I don't do groups.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. Here's why I don't want to lead.
here's why I don't want to lead. And so I kind of want to walk through those things because I think it helps us speak to the other side of it. Well, hey, here's this. One of the things I've heard is like, I just don't want to sit with 6 people and just share my emotions the whole time. How have you navigated those within?
Yeah.
You've probably, we've all heard it.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your feelings.
Yes.
That's a really strong response on the men's side of things.
Yes, exactly. I knew
there's a lot of men who have that response, but I mean, there are women too who are like, that's just not,
I'm not
my
ready for
vibe.
that.
I don't want to. I don't want to do that. Typically, what I tell new group leaders is, because I've had that with group leaders, like I think people aren't going to want to share right away.
Right.
So maybe commit to leading 2 semesters of groups.
Yeah.
The first semester is connection. You guys are just getting to know each other and meeting each other and becoming friends and feeling comfortable with each other. And maybe even if it's not 2 semesters, maybe it's the first 3-4 weeks of the group.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the group is more diving into it and sharing your heart and sharing the things you struggle with and the things you're excited about. But yeah, that just not being, just not being scared to share too. I mean, it's, the group leader has to be open to being vulnerable also. And so just coaching them in that of, just lead by example pretty much.
I think that is. And I think there's misconceptions that once you get together, you have to have this amazing chemistry. Or you have to be ready to share anything and everything. And that's not how relationships work, period, anyway. Like, that's just way too much pressure. If we all had that pressure, I think all of us would be without a lot of friends unless that one friend that we randomly meet, at a checkout line in Walmart. We're like, man, we talked forever because there was nobody working. But the reality of like, it takes time, take that pressure out and just be committed to being present, being willing to show up. I think those are, like how much is the power of showing up one of the biggest elements of group life,
One of the coolest stories is from one of the groups that I led, and she's now a current group leader. And it's been like a huge joy of mine to watch her step into leadership and lead her group. But the very first week of our group, she said, she came in and she was like, I got pulled here by a friend. I'm probably going to flake. I'm probably not going to come back. Like, you'll be surprised if you see me again.
Yeah.
And another girl in the group said, you know what? I hate flakes. Like, just just don't be flaky. Like, that's really irritating. Like, don't do that. They are best friends now. So it's
That's
so like, and they
hilarious.
met at that group. So
wow.
like,
Let me help you.
yeah.
You're the worst.
She was
by
just
the way. We
really,
should be friends.
really straightforward.
Yeah.
I'm glad
And-
we don't know anybody like that. It's straightforward.
Well, and I think we've had the other side of this to where it's like, oh, that group was awkward.
Yeah.
Or that maybe not the other side, but it's just like they worry like, if I'm going to go to a group, then it's going to like, we talk about it, then it's extremely awkward.
Yeah.
Or there's the other side of like, it doesn't go deep enough.
Yep.
We've heard those kind of things. It's like, man, I thought we were going to talk about, it's just people learning to navigate some expectations. And so
Yeah.
I know for us, one of the things we try to do is help people go, hey, some of these are connection groups.
Yeah.
Some of these are equipping groups. Some of these are care groups. And all of them have different kind of purposes behind them. So like a connection group is geared towards that person who's like, man, I don't want to share my deep feelings. I'm not emotionally ready. I'm not there.
I've already got enough emotion.
Yeah,
I've already
like-
got enough
Yeah.
connection. Yeah.
I've got that. But what I'd love is, man, I just want to go hiking together. I want to get to know people that way. I want to play softball, or I want to crochet. It's just some of those activity or connection groups that are just like, hey, we're just even going to talk about the sermon on Sunday. It may not go into a deep dive of, hey, we're going to study all the New Testament. Well, no, it's just, hey, we're going to and build those kind of relationships with each other. But then you got equipping that's more of like, we've got one group that's focused on, hey, here's the path, discipleship, and it's kind of very heavy on some of that stuff. That's where you will dive into some pretty big conversations.
But I think that's probably one of the scariest parts about that
Right.
reality. Like just because there are misconceptions about groups across the board, but like that just seems really intentional, right? Like, and I don't want to be a part of something that's so intentional. I want to be able to feel the pace. I want to be able to feel the relationships form there rather than, but some people love that classroom mentality, and some people love that just not even having to talk. The pressure's off, of
you
just-
and I have
yeah,
led we did one, it was connected to a series, but it was like, hey, we're going to talk about disciplines.
Yeah.
And it was very, like, it was somewhat group oriented, but it felt more teaching,
it did,
class kind of feel to it. And I understand some people are like, I love the information part of it.
Yep.
And so I think when it comes to groups, is recognizing groups can look very different across the board.
absolutely.
And in our care groups is a whole nother kind of emotional weight of like, it's CR, it's divorce care, where it's
Cancer
people
care
walking
stuff,
through heavy things
Yeah.
and needing the support.
Yep.
And that's not everybody.
Yep.
But there are people who are like, I need that.
Yeah.
And so it's just crazy to watch. But I go, God, I think created us like we need to be with other people. And what I love is our church is able to kind of meet people where they're at with these groups of going, hey, just try them.
Yeah.
And I would go, you're not going to find your best friend, some of it. You might,
Yeah.
but you also may just go, at the end of this group, I know more people at our church, and that's a win.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can go to my church and go, I know them and I know them.
Yeah.
Like we've connected. I go, that's how life works. Like it started in your neighborhood. It's not like you go, you know what? We're going to all share our feelings. No, we just happen to walk down and be like, hey, neighbor, so-and-so. Like, and sometimes you don't know their names yet, but then you get to know their names. And like, sometimes we're like, I'm never going to get to know my neighbors. And I'm like, well, maybe you should change that.
Maybe you should.
Yeah. And so that's where I look at like church can be that way. You can come, attend, sit, but then be frustrated or lonely in our church. And I go, you don't have to be.
Yeah, and that is the hardest part because everybody's got a misconception from the beginning, whether it's church or whether it's groups or whether it's serving or anything. And man, if we can and you've seen it, and we've seen it because we've been a part of groups. Like if you can begin to break down those barriers and really get to the heart of like just being known
Mm-hmm.
and realize that the other people are in the same boat as you, and other people are, they don't, maybe it's a misconception that other people know way more than you know, and you'll never know anything about the Bible. And you're like, hold on, listen, I've been a follower of Jesus for, as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And I was reading in Malachi this week and like just learning things that continue to challenge me and grow me. And man, I think we pray for opportunities to just get a chance to invite someone into a conversation about groups and hey, would you consider this? Would you think about this? And because we believe, with our core that it is a great part of connecting, of growing, of experiencing life with other people and just being willing to be available to whatever's in front of you. So
Yeah, one of the most powerful things that I was told when I started leading was I was terrified, and I said, like, I don't have a lot of biblical knowledge. Like, I don't know all that much. So what if someone comes to me with a question and is like, I'm like, well, I don't know. Yeah. Like, what do I do? Like, that seems really like I'm unequipped and not prepared. Sure. And the encouragement I was given by the group staff at that time was, you don't have to know everything. Yeah, no. You just say, that's a really good question. I don't know. Let's find out the answer together. And then you can dive into scripture together. And that was just really powerful for me as a new group leader to just be like, oh, okay, I don't have to know everything. It's okay if I don't. Yeah. And then there's people encouraging you along the way. So like we have our group coaches that coach the group leaders and coach the groups. And so that was.
Now we just
really
give out David's digits. And we're just like, hey, if you have a question that we can't answer, here's David's digits. Go ahead and dive in. No.
And I think that fear, like right there, causes so many people to not be group leaders or step into group.
I agree. Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I just don't know enough, or there's, and it's like, reality is you'll spend the rest of your life not knowing enough. We don't know enough about how to navigate relationships. We don't know enough about how to navigate our spirituality in regards to our relationship with God and what does that look like and who is he? And none of us know that. I mean, as Chris described, like we've been pastors for a while. You've been on staff for a while. And we go, we don't know it all.
Yeah.
But they sometimes look at us like, well, you seem like you know more. I was like, maybe. But you've also had different life experiences where you've learned a lot of things. And so that to me is where the groups becomes, it's just an opportunity to someone to hear a little bit about you and you to hear about somebody else. Because I think the danger is going through life and the only story you hear is your own.
Yeah.
And so I go, you've got to be able to hear what other people are walking through. And I think the powerful part of groups is like, and this is, I think, more on us as human beings. Like, yes, we need probably 2 or 3 people in our lives who are like, best friends or are like they kind of hold us accountable. They're the people we go to when life is nuts and crazy. And I go, yes, your spouse is one of those, but you probably need another 2 or 3 outside of that. And each one's going to be different of some of that. But then you also just need people you're acquainted with that, hey, we love doing this together. I know you love, Chris, you like riding bikes and that kind of stuff. There's just certain things that like we love to do together that I go, that's how our friendship was built.
Yeah. Our friendship wasn't built on bike riding. Did you learn to ride yet? Like,
no,
not yet.
Probably not going to do that.
Shoot, another hole in our friendship.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
You don't know how to ride a bike?
No.
Oh, I know how to ride a bike. Sorry. Should clarify that.
Thanks for picking up on that. I appreciate it. Like, yes. No.
But I'm not going to do the mountain biking or
it's all good.
Trail, whatever that
But
is.
it's funny. Like, and 2 things on this. Like, Todd and I are coaches along with you, coach, and we want to come alongside you. And I think there is that perception because, I mean, I met with a group leader just last week and I know that he and the other guy are friends and they're good friends. And I assumed like, oh, you guys are best friends. And in the course of the conversation, he's like, no. And I brought somebody up and he's like, oh yeah, actually that guy is like one of my best friends. And I was like, I didn't see that coming. But I knew that they had those common interests. And I think sometimes that is, again, you brought it up really early. Like I did a parenting group when my kids were early and your and young, and your kids are not, they're youngish, but they're not young anymore. Like they're taller than you. They're, they're
teenagers.
They're awkward.
It's really
like,
great.
All the kids are, right. Like some days I love them.
The
this is the best. Somebody reassure me this is the best. No, but in those different stages and you've grown and you've understood stuff. And, I've got kids in college. So I mean, I can connect with people that are seeing kids come out of college and kids that are gravitating towards dating and those awkward, since I have all ladies.
Yeah.
I know how boys work, but I don't know how boys work. You know what I mean? Like, one of my daughters came the other day and said, I wonder what boys would look like if you were their parents. Like, I wonder what some of the boys in my class would look like if you were their parents. And I was like, oh, and Rachel's like, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know
what we don't know. And I say all that to say this: we don't know what we don't know. So for us, whether it's parenting or whether it's being a mom or whether it's just being around other people, we don't know what we don't know. So how are we willing and available to step into a conversation to just learn something new and be challenged?
Well, and I think you bring up something that we've even thought through of, because sometimes it's a big step from somebody to go, okay, I want to go to a group and go, okay, there's only 6 of you. Oh, I've got to talk at some point. This is going to be, I don't know. And so learning to be like, that's sometimes a really big step for a person.
Yeah.
And so sometimes what falls under sometimes our group stuff still is workshops, like a parenting workshop, to where it's like, it's more maybe 100-something people, or a financial workshop too, but it makes it a little bit smaller. We're all in this together. And then it could be that catalyst to like, all right, I know you. Let's do a little bit of group. Like your IF gathering that you've done for years, that's kind of been some of that men's retreat that we've done. Those kind of things we are finding like, hey, that actually, that's always our goal with some of these events. It pushes people to go, just keep thinking smaller.
Yeah.
And processing through it. And it's been crazy to watch. IF has been pretty powerful to see how that's gone.
It like keep thinking smaller and it keeps getting bigger, the big event, but then it's cultivating more groups out of it. And so then it's getting smaller again, and it's just kind of.
And just know, like, that's our heart. We're following, like, Jesus's model in that of just going, yes, he had a lot of followers, had a lot of even disciples outside of that. They talk about the 120, the 70, but then there's 12. And then inside that, there was 3.
Yeah.
And so I think we've got to look at our own lives and go, hey, we've got to be part of something bigger than ourselves that has that church component to it.
Yeah.
Big groups of people. But then there's also these smaller pockets. And I think all of us would say is like, there's a lot of people probably within our church who don't have some of those smaller pockets.
Yep, I would agree.
Especially within the spiritual realm.
And you never know what, I think there's 2 things on that as well. Like, you never know what somebody else is going through.
Correct.
And secondly, we make assumptions that somebody's life maybe looks better than it really is.
Well, we all try to make our lives look better.
We all, we don't harp on it. We talk about a lot. Like, social media is the worst depictor of our lives because we only choose to put real life. And then when we try to make it real, it seems over dramatic, right? Like, well, this is really my life. Well, somewhere in between. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of groups is sometimes you just meet in the somewhere in between and you figure it out together. Or you find some joy, you find some time away from your spouse to just focus on growing as a woman or growing as a guy. And it's fun to sometimes just be able to talk about, oh man, my kids are crazy, just like yours. Yes. You know, so.
Yeah. And I think some of the powerful parts that we've seen is just, they start a group together. And I remember one of the guys that I've been coaching of like, he's like, hey, can me and so come pray together at the church? It was during, I think, the 24 hours of prayer, but then they also just felt like they wanted to do it even more beyond that. And I was like, yes. Yeah. But it was a group going, okay, these 2 are now going after that. And I just was like, this is awesome to see them taking those steps. Or a new group leader starting a group and, oh man, it's going awesome. We've got these people doing these things. And to say, there's also the other side of it. There's sometimes stories that's like, I tried to start a group, it did not go well. And I go, that's good. And I would encourage people, whether you're leading a group or starting to join a group, keep going on this journey of finding people to do life with. Yep. Because one of our taglines is life is better together. And so don't give up on it just because it goes bad the first time. Yep. 'Cause man, if we do that, we really take away the gift of being able to be living life together with people.
Yeah. I had one group that I was leading for probably, I think, 2 full years. And then I was like, I feel like God is pushing me to do something else.
Yeah.
And I brought it up to the group, and one of the ladies in the group said, that's so weird because I feel like I felt prompting from God that I need to like step into leadership of a group. So can I just take over this group? And I was like, that was so God orchestrated and like blew my mind. So then I was like, I'm going to do this study. I'm going to go into like a very discipleship and equipping group, very discipleship based. And nobody signed up for it. And I was like heartbroken. I was like, well, apparently that wasn't God talking to me. But then I approached one, she was like 18 at the time. I just said, hey, I just serve with you it was during Saturdays. I serve with you on Saturdays. And would you be interested in going through this study with me? And I met with her for 6 weeks and went through a one-on-one study with her. And it was really cool. So even sometimes in the disappointments, God is doing something bigger and it's still working, and it doesn't mean that you're
Say that again.
failure.
Say that again. I think it's important to hear. Do you remember what you said?
Hopefully.
Yes.
Even in the disappointments, God is still working, still doing great things. Yeah.
Sometimes the disappointments are the biggest lessons.
Yeah.
That was worth having Carina on for.
There you go. This is why she's great.
That's right.
Right there.
That's right. She
Hear
just
ye, hear
One
ye.
and done.
sneaks those in there. That's
the great
right.
Carina
You know what?
has
You
spoken.
can go home for the day. You've had your good. No, I'm just kidding.
But no, we've kind of talked through it, but like groups are always going, kind of wrapping it up here of just groups are always going. We encourage you to be a part of it. And if you have questions, Carina is one to ask, but you can also talk to anybody on our team. We're trying to help people kind of find those people to do life with. We can't promise community. We will try to encourage it.
Yeah. And if we ask you or Carina asks you, like we believe that you can do it. Like I had a sad story this week. I've been wanting this individual to lead an activity group because I believe that they would do an amazing job, and because they've already been a part of a group similar to that. And it was one of those weird moments. I was like, hey, what do you think about this? Because I'd already talked to her about it. She's like, I think I might have something else in the burner. And it was something much bigger than just leading groups.
You're
and I'm
like,
I was
thinking small.
No, I really want you to lead a group. And I was like, but I'm really excited about what you just told me, and because it may take them away from not being here, and it is what it is. And so, but it's fun to have those conversations and see the people that we know would be so great at leading a group. But again, being willing to listen to God in those moments, step into that.
Well, and I would say like there's so many different ranges from serving groups all the way to prayer groups that keep going all the time. And then on top of that, I get it. Sometimes you're going through a life circumstance and you would love that group to be happening right then. Even have a conversation recently. It's like, oh, do you guys have a divorce care group right now? And it's like, well, not right now, but one will start in the fall. And it's like sometimes the waiting process of getting like, okay, this is when it will happen, is part of it. Yeah, we'd love to have all the things going on the same at the time. Yeah, but people have their schedules. People and leaders come and go in some of that, and but I think God usually answers those prayers pretty. We've seen it. Like, hey, we need young adult groups. Boom, God answers that in some ways. And hey, we need more men's groups. Okay, men's groups show up. So it's just been cool to see God move through that.
Yeah. And I think good encouragement too in the like lower seasons where we don't have 40 groups for you to sign up for. Yeah. If there's not a specific one that you can that you can find that is exactly what you want to do or that will fit your schedule, like just grab a friend. Like go on Right Now Media. There's so many different curated groups to go through on there. I mean, we have kind of put together a library too for top picks of what we would suggest. And that's a way to still get connected, even if you're with one other person or if you have 2 or 3 friends and just say, hey, let's
we
meet up.
Encourage the organic groups. So
It doesn't have to be, oh, I met with the church staff. I signed up. I'm on the form. It can just be like our heart really is that you're in community with people, and that's what we want.
And that really is cool. Like Right Now Media, we've talked about it, is just essentially a free resource that we offer, but we utilize it for group stuff, and we utilize putting podcast stuff on there. This podcast is on there.
Sermons are on there.
Sermons are on there.
And so it's a free resource through the church. Church pays for it, but I go use it. Like it is not only on an individual level, but especially on a group level too.
Absolutely. So great. What's one thing you're excited about with, as we kind of close our time, what's one thing you're excited about just thinking about groups in this next season? Is there something that comes to mind?
I am just excited about seeing all of the different variety of types of groups we have. I mean, not only that we have like connection, equipping, and care groups and serving groups, but just that we have groups that are just going deep into like a lecture style of like just learning things. And I actually am in that group, and it's intense, but it's so good and learning new things. But then the hiking group that meets all year long, I just love that they still meet, even if there's two of them. They're out every single Saturday. All winter long, they've been out every single Saturday.
That's cool.
They just don't take a break. And just that people are continuing to move towards being together with other people.
Cool.
That's just what excites me, and that there's so many different opportunities for different people.
That's sweet. I love it.
It's good. Good stuff.
It is good stuff. We appreciate you taking time to just kind of shed some light on it. But we also know you have a big heart for people to be connected and grow. And just because I think the coolest part is you've walked that path and you've
experienced it
from the beginning of saying, all those emotions and feelings to listen, I've been there. I know. And let me help you take that step, and knowing that on the other side of those feelings is something really cool that's about to happen. So cool. Thanks a lot, Carina. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.